Well, Tucker Carlson is in Moscow. Yeah, that's right. Russia. That's right. He's in Russia. And the corrupt U.S. Political class is shaking in its boots over this story. They clearly don't want him to expose their lies about the war in Ukraine or sanctions against Russia or any of the other propaganda that is been spoon-fed to you over the past few years about Russia. And we'll have more on that part of the story in a second. But first, yesterday, the U.S. government approved another $60 billion to be sent to Ukraine. Now, this isn't finalized just yet, but come on, it's going to happen. $60 billion to Ukraine and $14 billion to be sent to Israel. Now, the real question is, do we break that out separately? We just send Israel their money like we do every few months as a stipend. We break that out of this bill.
Well, House Speaker Mike Johnson says he's not going for this. He only wants the Israel piece.
Yeah.
So, Ukraine, he's a little bit tired of. They never say it's because Ukraine harms civilians, which they did over the weekend, horrific attack on 28 civilians. But civilians know it's just about the budget. They never make any.
Well, and if you actually read the bill underneath that part that says about the $60 billion for Ukraine, there's two more lines that say, and possibly money to Ukraine for this, and if they need it for this. So there's some other hidden things in there to send even more money to Ukraine.
And anyone who wants to take on China. Sorry, I'm stepping on your piece.
Yeah, that's okay. Anyway, so let's get back to the numbers here. So another $14 billion to be sent to Israel if they break this out of this, right? So if Mike Johnson gets his way, it's broken out. They'll just send them their check like they do every month. Like, I guess it's like some sort of an alimony payment. I don't know. But anyway, it's really interesting when you look at why Israel continues to get so much money from the United States and the Israeli foreign exchange reserves. Just a reminder that Israel has a massive surplus of cash, over $200 billion. According to the Bank of Israel, $200 billion. They also have a free universal health care plan. So every Israeli and permanent resident, of course, gets free health care. And, oh, by the way, they have a space agency as well. So Israel, the smallest country by population size, has a space agency. Yes, indeed. And thanks to Senate candidate Sam Parker for posting this on X. So we know about a lot of these things, and the comments is just hilarious on this. So they have a $200 billion surplus. So we should send them another $14 billion just to add into their surplus.
I remind you that aid to Israel was in our COVID relief packages. These are the things that made President Trump hit the roof because the Senate kept bringing him these packages, and he's like, this is not for COVID. Why are we paying Israel? Why are we paying Chile?
And they're like, wait a minute, why is this guy questioning us? This doesn't usually happen in Washington. Someone's questioning us? I don't get this.
And then he would say, scrub this and bring it back to me. And the media would scream.
Yeah. Oh, you don't love Israel? You don't want to send money to Israel? Anyway, just so we're on the same page, just so you understand some history here and where some of this money is going to, that Ukraine is using the American-made HIMARS that we've been sending them to kill innocent individuals. This weekend, Ukraine used HIMARS to destroy a Sunday bakery in Luhansk as people were gathering up on to go to the bakery on a Sunday, killing 28 civilians. A bakery is clearly a military target.
How is that car? What am I looking at?
I don't know. A car being.
I think that's cleanup.
If that's a crane pulling it up, or if it got stuck on a telephone pole or something. I think they're using a crane to lift up the smashed cars and everything. So U.S. tax dollars at work right there on your screen. Of course, exposing this is really why they don't want Tucker Carlson sitting down for an interview with President Putin. Carlson's audience, of course, is massive, and it's in the millions. Millions of Americans, of course, are about to learn a lot about the war and the lies that have been heaped upon the American people. Neoconservatives are terrified, of course, about all of this because it would upend their narrative. Former chief of staff to the U.S. Vice President Bill Kristol wrote on social networks that perhaps the return of journalist Tucker Carlson to the United States should be completely prevented until the country's representatives can figure out exactly what's happening. Bill Kristol tweeted this: "Perhaps we need a total and complete shutdown of Tucker Carlson re-entering the United States," he wrote on Twitter, "until our country's representatives can figure out what is going on." Really? Look at that. Keep that on your screen. Perhaps we need a total and complete shutdown of Tucker Carlson re-entering the United States until our country's representatives can figure out what is going on.
That's not the social contract. When you get a passport, that is not the deal. That's illegal.
Yeah. What is that? Who is Bill Kristol, a neoconservative, calling on the United States government to shut down his border reentry as a journalist? Of course,
it's Bill Kristol, who loves war. That's who it is.
Right.
That's
and he also,
the most transparent.
He loves war, and of course he loves illegal immigration as well. This is the same Bill Kristol who loves the idea of illegal immigrants being used for labor in the United States.
Look, to be totally honest, if things are so bad, as you say, with the white working class, don't you want to get new Americans in who aren't going to be... I'm serious. You can make a case that this is going on too long and this is too crazy, probably, and I hope this thing isn't being, videotaped or ever shown anywhere.
Yeah, that's right. Imagine they're rolling videotape on you saying it's okay to replace Americans with cheap foreign labor that's pouring across the United States border. Imagine that. In 1980, so listen to this. In 1998, 5 years after the bombing at the World Trade Center, John Miller, a reporter for ABC News, went to Afghanistan and interviewed the most wanted man in the world, Osama bin Laden. Then he flew back to the United States and posted this interview for ABC News.
In May of 1998, ABC News correspondent John Miller went to Afghanistan to conduct an interview with bin Laden. Bin Laden's appearance was cause for celebration for his men.
All hell breaks loose. Missiles are shot up in the air, tracer bullets, and men love to see him. The words he was using were extremely powerful and frightening. He had three principal issues. One was to remove the U.S. military presence from Saudi Arabia. The other was to end the U.S. support of Israel, particularly as it affected negatively the Palestinians. And three was, at that time, an immediate halt to the bombing of Iraq, and even still now today.
Well, by the way, how do they let a journalist do his job and then return to the United States? Right?
He didn't even tell lies. He said the truth.
No, and he told the truth. And by the way, isn't it funny? He goes, what he said was terrifying. That reporter said what bin Laden said was terrifying, which is end U.S. occupation of these countries, stop bombing Iraq, and stop giving unfettered money to support of Israel, which harms Palestinians. So that reporter said that was terrifying. Just a little side note, just not to editorialize at all on that, of course, but just very interesting, right? But how do they let a journalist, he literally left the United States, went and interviewed the most wanted man in the world, Osama bin Laden. And then they let him back in, and then ABC does a whole report about his time with Osama bin Laden.
Maybe if he were a bigger name, if he were more charismatic, if he were a
Bill O'Reilly
at the time, right? Oh, no one's going to care what this guy says for ABC News, and we're doing a good job selling the lie of this war, so it's okay to let just one dude through.
I guess, yeah.
And Sean Penn, not even a journalist, didn't he go hang out with like El Chapo or something for a long time and do some?
That's right.
That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah,
that's right.
You know,
not to mention hanging out with a terrorist and a war criminal in Zelensky. That's a whole other animal. But, so anyway, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. just tweeted this afternoon, saying the legacy media is in shambles because we've caught on to their lies and propaganda. Tucker Carlson has every right to interview Putin. We need more transparency instead of less. It used to be understood journalists would interview world leaders, even those with whom we were at war. Yeah, so, this afternoon, Tucker Carlson sat down with Vladimir Putin, went to the presidential palace, went inside the Kremlin and was there for about an hour, and then left. And apparently went to a kebab shop, which has not let an American have kebabs in this kebab shop for like 10 years. It was the first American let into this kebab shop, and the owner of it said he looks all right. Let's get him some food. And then Sputnik News went out on the streets of Moscow and asked the people there, first of all, do you even know who Tucker Carlson is? You're Russian. Are you totally uninformed about what's going on in America? Do you know who Tucker Carlson is? He's apparently here in Moscow. He just interviewed President Putin. What do you think of this guy? And here was their unfettered responses. Watch this.
На сегодняшний день, на мой взгляд, это самый смелый, самый отважный американский журналист, который смело высказывает свое видение, свою позицию.
Такер Карлсон часто мелькает в новостях. Но он правду говорит. Поэтому у него, кстати, проблемы в США из-за этого. Он сейчас, насколько я понимаю, сюда приехал. Вот. И не знаю, пустят ли его обратно.
Я очень уважаю за его смелость, я очень уважаю за его нормальное человеческое мнение о том, что происходит на самом деле, за его разумность, за его логику, за его понимание, где добро, где зло. Вот. И что он не боится это все высказывать, несмотря на то, что он живет в стране, которая заварила всю эту, как это сказать, фашистскую кашу.
Меня поразило, скажем так, откровенность, которой он рассказывает о реальных проблемах, которые есть, в данном случае в Соединенных Штатах. Вот. Очень хорошая подача информации, с хорошим чувством юмора. Я слышал о том, что он вроде бы приехал в Россию. Ну что ж, добро пожаловать.
Я считаю, что держит марку порядочного журналиста, честного, открытого.
Цепляет тем, что он идет против общей антироссийской пропаганды, которая в США проводится. И он высказывает свое мнение. Вот этим он цепляет.
Ну и надо сказать, что очень положительно отношусь, потому что это объективный журналист, который реально показывает то, что происходит в мире, несмотря на то, что его позиция не воспринимается особенно демократами в США, особенно сторонниками Байдена. Я очень рад, что он прибыл в Россию. Мне также сказали, что он уже посетил Большой театр. И я думаю, что он здесь много чего увидит и узнает, что в России многие к нему относятся с очень большим уважением.
So there you go. So that was just a sampling of, and a lot of people in the chat are saying, "Wow, based Russians." Yeah, and they're not going to like this, and the left is certainly not going to like this, and neoconservatives are not going to like this. Bill Kristol and these guys who want a perpetual war are going to jump all over this. See, he was well received in the Russian press, for doing what? Like he hasn't even come out and confirmed that he's even there, right, to the Russian people or anything, right? So I just find that.
So the preemptive panic, I think, is what we're trying to point out here. Not just that, these selection of people think this of him in Russia. Of course, they understand. We talked with Mike Jones last week about the most recent candidate that the American West is trying to sell us, that is running against Vladimir Putin. They're telling us he has a popular uprising. And why, right? Why are they telling us this? Because they want to sell this terrorist of Putin. They don't want us to see anything for ourselves.
One thing I thought it was interesting, and we'll talk more about this later, but Tucker told me this morning, he was surprised. He's just like, I can't believe how well this country has been doing under sanctions. He's like, you wouldn't believe it. And he's like, most Americans have no idea about this. He's like, every American should come and see this, because we've been told that Russia is being crushed under the weight of Biden's sanctions.
Not by Redacted, you haven't. We've been doing our studying.
Well, sorry, I was trying to chime in. My microphone was being weird. Wasn't there a big thing in the lead up to the war with Iraq where didn't 60 Minutes interview Saddam, and that was like this big to do, or did I dream that? Is that like a?
Wow. I'd have to go back. You mean the first Gulf War or the second one?
No, the second one. The second one where we I feel like maybe that's just like a Mandela effect and I dreamt that, but I could have swore there was like.
Well, I know you're thinking of Mike Wallace. Certainly, had some amazing, some really big interviews, of course, in Iran. Those were I think those were famous interviews, but I don't know about Saddam being interviewed.
I do seem to remember that.
I see a 60 Minutes interview with Saddam Hussein, September 13th, 2001.
Ah, okay. September 13th, 2001? 2 days after the...
September 13th, 1988. And
I'm
December
sorry, 1988 I meant.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you should have checked with the bird. 1988. So, okay, a few years before. But that's when we were friends with Saddam Hussein. That's when Donald Rumsfeld was chummy, and we were using Saddam Hussein as a good buddy and a good friend.
He was doing killing on behalf of the CIA.
Oh, yeah. Happy to support that. So I think it's just amazing to watch this sort of the media response to this Tucker Carlson interview, because what are they so afraid of? Let's lay it out here. What do you guys in the chat room think that they're so afraid of? They're afraid. Here, I'll give you my opinion first, because I'm here, is that they're scared, of course, that he'll lay out a narrative showing how the war in Ukraine has been destroying the United States, and point out all of the ways in which the United States is suffering as a result of the war. Mm-hmm. I think he'll also expose how Putin has been pushing for peace, pushing for a peace agreement, had actually a signed piece of paper, a peace agreement until the United States and the UK stepped in and intervened and threw it out the window. That'll clearly come out in this interview.
Also, the evils of the attacks on civilians that were aimed at Crimea before Crimea was annexed by a vote, that Russia didn't go in and invade. It was actually Russian soldiers that were already in Crimea that held the line, that held Ukrainian SBU soldiers from attacking Crimea. And I think the statistic is between 60 and 80% of Ukrainian soldiers that were stationed in Crimea then turned over to the Russian army and decided, yeah, we don't want to attack these people anymore. We never wanted to.
Yeah, it's our family.
Right. And the fact that the Donbass region also voted to join Russia, asked Russia to come in and protect them, that they'd been living a horror for a decade. These are things they don't want you absolutely to see. They want you to think that Putin is irrational.
I hope we talk about I hope we hear about biolabs. What else, David?
Well, I'm just going to say, I think that we are going, I know it's going to happen. We are going to see one of the biggest propaganda campaigns we've seen in a long time from all the pro-Ukrainian people about everything Putin is saying is complete bullshit. Like, none of it's true. Because, I mean, we know that they blocked RT News, so I'm just not looking forward to that campaign because it's going to be everywhere.
Yeah, I think you're right. Philip, what do you think? And let us know in the chat what you think. And there's a lot of people weighing in saying, yeah, we're going to see, well, in Sevastopol.
I mean, yeah, I don't.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I don't really know. Like, I mean, not to, I know it's what we do. It's kind of like news and speculation, but I just don't speculate on things like this. I'll know when I see it, you know.
Julia.
I know it's kind of boring, but.
Yeah, no, Julia says, are we team Russia now? No, we're team peace. Hope that makes that's what I think this whole mission is about. I think that's what this whole interview is about. It's about peace, and it's about waking people up. Because right now, the people that control the media in the United States are warmongers. Yeah. And they are part of the neoconservative deep state, of course, which has been pushing this perpetual military-industrial complex, war complex. And it's all you need to do is watch CNN, watch Meet the Press, where they have all these generals and they have all these, these members of the military on their staff of these different news organizations pushing this narrative about war.
Right.
Well, and there's only one side. I mean, you say pick a side or whatever, but there's only one side that is actively calling for peace and trying to get peace and has been very calculated with what they're doing, and that is Russia. You have the Ukraine is just following the footsteps of the United States, and they're just pro-war. They were going to go negotiate peace, and Boris, I almost said Boris Karloff. Johnson went over there and talked them out of the deal. So there's only one side that is trying to get peace. So that is why it's important that Tucker goes over there so people can hear that Russia has been calling for peace from the very beginning. So, by saying we choose a side, we do choose the side of peace, but there's only one side choosing peace, trying to choose peace right now.
Right. We don't have to like what we're reporting, but we've studied the narratives of this war and their lies. If that comes off as if we like Russia or support Russia, I'm sorry that you can't make a distinction between the fact that we understand that we're being sold lies and we don't know what we think of Russia. We've never been there. We know that our government sells us lies and people die on both sides. And we don't like that.
Julia in our chat says she was joking. Okay, so Julia was joking.
I think she understands. Yeah, no, it's not her but we see some more direct comments that just set my hair on fire, like they're pro-Russian bots. And I want to step on your foot for saying that and not being a more critical thinker.
No, I'm pro-human, by the way. I'm pro all the civilians that have been killed. I'm pro making sure that these people are protected. I'm pro, not military-industrial complex. So the corrupt government of Ukraine that has been partnering up with NATO and killing innocent people and leading to this massive war that we're about to see throughout Scandinavia, which is coming, they are doing this, putting NATO right on the doorstep here. They are fomenting this war. We knew it back in Bill Clinton's day and way before that, by the way. I really hope you enjoyed watching this video. YouTube thinks that you'll actually like this next video right here. It's personalized based on your own viewing habits. So if you watch the video, please leave a comment. Let us know what you think about it. And we will see you next time, everyone.